So today we're going to get ready for Dr. Seuss Week. In order to do this, we're going to participate in a writing activity that I like to highlight every year. We're going to focus on the literary device, alliteration. Dr. Seuss was a master at using alliteration, and this is when the first letter in a word matches the first letter in several other words within the same sentence. One of the best examples of alliteration that Dr. Seuss wrote was his ABC book. We're going to look at a couple pages of this book. An example from it you can find on one of the very first pages. Aunt Annie. Aunt Annie's alligator A. So this is alliteration where you see an A on aunt, an A for Annie, an A for alligator. It doesn't mean that the words rhyme. It's the first sound in the word that is the same. Here's another example from the same book. Big Q, little q, what begins with Q? The quick queen of Quincy and her quacking quackaroo. So I wanted to show you this page to point out that not every word on this page starts with a Q. What begins and with all start with other letters, but here we have quick, queen, Quincy, quacking quackaroo. If you have a couple words in a row that start with the same sound, it's considered alliteration. It doesn't mean that every single word in the sentence has to start with it, but you want to overload your sentence with words that start with the same sound. That's how you get great alliteration. So where do you start? Well, you choose a letter, any letter of the alphabet, okay? I chose the letter D. That should come as no surprise. This is Mrs. Deaver. I'm choosing D, okay? Write your letter at the top of your page. Now, whatever letter you have chosen, you are about to begin a brainstorming activity. Think really hard of any word that starts with that letter. It can be anything. Don't limit yourself right now. Brainstorming means you use any and every idea that comes up. So, here's my list. Words that start with D that I wrote down. Daring, darling, donut, dumb, dear, dear, daughter, Deaver, dodge, drive, drove, day, doe, and downtown. Notice all of these words start with the letter D as required. None of them rhyme, meaning none of the last sounds are exactly the same. But because they have a D at the beginning, this is exactly what we want. Now that I have my list of words, I can start making silly sentences. One of the greatest things with Dr. Seuss is that his books are fun to read. They don't necessarily mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's serious or anything. You just have fun with it. So you're going to take as many of the words that you came up with and try to arrange them in a very silly type of story. Here's my sample. Are you ready? My silly story poem. One fine day, my darling Deaver daughter drove downtown. My dear dodged a daring but dumb doe, dear, by doing a donut in the Dodge. Okay, this is my silly story poem. It's set up as a poem because you can tell not every line ends with a period. It's not a complete sentence. I kind of arranged it to look how I wanted it to look. It's alliteration because I have D words all the way through it. Notice I didn't use every single word that I came up with, but I sure used a lot. So, your challenge right now is to choose a letter of the alphabet, create a brainstorm list of at least 10 words, and then start writing a silly story of your own. Have fun!